Hey, everybody, ¿cómo están? Este es René González. I want to speak on a subject that just came out pretty much, I think it was tonight or the day before. There's an article, if you have not read it, look it up online, Politico. Released an article about 2,500 text messages from young Republican clubs and young Republican associations, pretty much saying everything that you can imagine that is the worst of the worst a human can express. Comments in favor of rape, comments in favor of racism, comments in favor of fascism, comments in favor of homophobia, everything that we know the Republican Party is. And I wanted to provide historical context. Before I speak, I have a master's degree in political science, so I'm speaking as an expert, somebody who's done a lot of extensive reading. And if you guys saw the other video I posted the other day of the books I've read in the past, I am not speaking, as we say proverbially, taking this out of my ass. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I'm actually speaking with historical knowledge. One can make the argument that racism in the United States is the original sin of this country. It's been argued by pretty much anybody who has any, historical, sociological, political expertise. It never was solved. We fought a war, the Civil War, over it, of the issue of racism and slavery, more and more specific. And even when it was solved, for 20 years, there was an attempt to try to include black people into the fold of politics in the United States, and whites and the Democrat Party at the time. They didn't allow it. They essentially manipulated the laws of all the southern states to essentially disenfranchise blacks and institute the Ku Klux Klan, the John Birch Society, and other organizations to essentially criminalize, to terrorize black people in this country from 1880 onward. I mean, they already had terrorized it during slavery times, but I'm talking about beyond that, from 1880 to 1960, until 1965 or 64, when you have the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And it never stopped. You had, ever since 1965 all the way to Reagan years, you had a lot of Republican. That's one thing I want to make sure that people know historically. Everybody who was a racist all throughout the early part of the history of the United States, all the way to 1960, because of what Lyndon Johnson did with the civil rights movement, and the signing those acts, there was a huge exodus from the party. All the racists in the Democratic Party left. They left, and there's even people who remained within the Democratic Party or moved over to the Democratic Party, who participate. Like, I think his name was Robert Byrd, if I'm correct. Those people, Strom Thurmond was one of the most famous ones, who used to be a Democrat and moved over to the Republican Party. I mean, people who were members of the Ku Klux Klan. Robert Byrd had been a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and he apologized for it at the end of his career. Uh, some people did grow. Did somebody like Robert Byrd did grow, but other people didn't grow. They remained as stalwart to the end. They were strong defenders of the Confederate flag, strong defenders of Southern culture, which is just basically racism, just straight up racism. If you're a black person or a Latino person live in the South, you don't see life in U.S. society the same way whites in the South see it. It's just straight up racism. Um, Latinos in this country have had to endure discrimination and abuses ever since before the Mexican War, after the Mexican War, and all throughout the social struggles that Mexicans and Chicanos have had to do in the United States, particularly with the Cesar Chavez, la lucha de Cesar Chavez. Latinos have had to suffer, the racism and discrimination in New York and Chicago. That's where the Young Lords Party was made. The Black Panther Party was made out of that. All these organizations, SNCC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. You got to read your history. And that's why I recommend people read a lot of the history from the perspective of those that have had to suffer it. Read People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. Um, why do I come out and speak on this, on the issue? I'm bothered by what I read, but I am not surprised. When I was a student at UMass in 1997 to 2003, the most racist, most horrendous people who did the most provocative and horrible shit in the entire campus were the campus Republicans, and they were known for that. I was a member of the student organizations at the time, was a member of Ahora, which was the, all Latin American organization. I was a member of Boricuas Unidos, the Puerto Rican student organization. I regularly liaisoned with with the African Students Union, with Black Mass Communications Project, with the Black Student Union, with other groups. Basically, if you were a person of color, we had no problems with you. We would, do events together, collaborative events, cultural events, educational events. We would, use our budgets in conjunction. But we all knew, everybody who was a student of color and was a member of one of these organizations, meaning we knew about campus politics, knew that the people who were the most racist, you could find them in the Republican club's membership. They would do things. They would put posters up, weird posters that would have like these weird messages, and they would be had no email, no phone on them, and it was all provocative, almost Ku Klux Klan thing. Burning crosses on the images. I remember things like that. Walking through the campus center, there was a hallway that had all the flyers at the University of Massachusetts, and I remember there was a campaign of these weird flyers, and nobody knew where they come from. And then it was later attributed to the campus Republicans, to the Young Americans for Freedom. I think there was one organization which were more radical, and the campus Republicans. So this was my reality in 1997 to 2003. We're in 2025, 20 something years ago. I'm an adult now, full, almost about to reach 50 years of age. I'm 46, and this is still the shit that we have to deal with. And I want to second the comments of the governor of New York when she says this bullshit's got to stop. And one thing I want to say is, let's not kid ourselves. This is the Republican Party, all the way from Trump to down. Trump is a pedophile. Trump is a violator. Trump is a racist. He's a sexist. He's a homophobe. Charlie Kirk was a homophobe. He was a racist. He was a provocateur. Not only one comment. They've already found at least 50 to 100 comments that all of them are not taken out of context. They're all just vile crap. And people are acting like this is new. This has never been new. This has been the Republican Party. This was previously, before the Republican Party, the membership of the Democrat Party. Now, by that, I'm not saying that the Democratic Party post-1960 is the same as the Republican Party. I'm saying that there's been a strain of racism and discrimination and white supremacy in this country all throughout. And the only difference right now, post the Tea Party movement in the United States and the Trump fascist movement to 2016 on to today, it's out in the open. Racists and homophobes and sexists and Islamophobes are out in the open. I'm tired of hearing about Mandani being some kind of jihadist. Why? Just because he's a person who's brown skinned, or just because he believes in Islam? I don't have a right to discriminate against a person who believes in Islam just because they're an Islamic person. There are such a thing as millions and millions of people who are Muslims who don't believe in any of the conservative Islamic bullshit, who don't believe in discriminating against women, who don't believe about imposing their religion on anybody. Are we going to judge all Christians purely on the action of, for example, Southern Christian Baptist and their extremism, or the ridiculousness of, for example, Christian people who are so extremist that they'll dance with snakes and stuff like that? Are we going to judge everybody for that reason? So why are we judging Mandani just because he's brown? He's automatically a jihadist. He's automatically a terrorist. That is not, on top of Islamophobic, is racist. It's xenophobic. Why is a person with a brown skin who has heritage of the Arab world automatically a terrorist, automatically a jihadist? This is the sickness in this country. And let's not kid ourselves. It is not from right now. This is something that's happened in this country forever. We are barely, we barely started coming out of this racism when we elected Obama. And a lot of people thought, we reached Obama. That means now we've reached, panacea. We've reached paradise. We've reached equality. No. Obama, one of the first things he had was that situation, the beer summit with the doctor, I can't remember his name, Dr. Lee Oakley or Oates, I can't remember. The one from Harvard University who has the great show about DNA. And the police officer, the famous beer summit. And because of that beer summit, white people in this country didn't forgive him. Right now, as I speak, Bad Bunny, it was just a Puerto Rican. Oh, no, if he is against ICE, we hate him. But why? He's against human beings being abused. He's against fascism. He's against ICE violating the Fourth Amendment. We have a right and freedom not to have to show our identification. We don't have a right to have to show any documentation. That's the whole point of the Fourth Amendment. To be free in our papers without due process and without probable cause. Meaning you can't arrest me unless you have probable cause. You can't detain me until you have probable cause. You can't ask for my ID. You can't ask for my birth certificate. You can't ask for my passport. You can't ask for everything. That's precisely what the founders were avoiding. This is the type of crap that was commonplace in the kingdoms of Europe. They left Europe precisely because of that reason. This, we're totally violating that. We're violating the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. We're violating the 14th Amendment against equal protection of the laws. Because if you're a black person or you're a brown person, you are not receiving equal protection of the laws. And if for whatever reason ICE believes you have a last name or comes to, I don't know, raid my home because they've checked out a list that there's the people who have last names who are Latinos in the street, and they decided to break down my door and not the door of John Smith across the street, guess what? We're not equally receiving the protection of the laws. I'm being discriminated for my last name. I'm being discriminated for my background. And if I have black skin, I'm being discriminated for black skin. They're literally racial profiling. The Supreme Court authorized it. So no, this bullshit is everywhere. It's the Supreme Court, those 6 Republican bastard racists in the Supreme Court. That's on them. It's Trump with his freshness, with his laughter, with his bullying of female and other reporters who ask him tough questions, who say that their newspapers are shit and it's all fake news and they're bad and you just have it against me. It's him. We knew he was this way when he said he grabbed women by the pussy. Don't you dare say that you had no idea that this was the type of guy that you put in there. You put a man who admitted that he grabbed women by the pussy on audio and then went and apologized. And you, yes, all you white Republican people said, it's just locker room talk. Yeah, the same people that right now are excusing these young Republicans like this is something out there, just some some bad apples. No, this was exactly what the United States has always been. There's at least a full 33 to 40% of the United States, specifically white people, who are just straight up racist and xenophobic and Islamophobic and sexist. And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to, everybody wants to falsify this nation under the idea that it's this great freedom-loving nation, that we're good people. That no, we're not. No, we're not. I think the first thing that we need to do as members of this nation is that we need to have an honest national appraisal. I think it's necessary to have something akin to as South Africa had some of these truth and reconciliation committees. And, in those truth and reconciliation committee, we need to get the best experts from university, the best, people who respect people from all walks of society. We got to sit down and have some tough conversations and admit out in the open all the shit that the United States has done domestically and externally. We need to have a conversation about all of COINTELPRO, for example. We need to have a conversation about the forced sterilization of Puerto Rican women that the U.S. government did. We need to have a conversation about the colonial colonies that we still have in this country. We need to have a conversation about the CIA torture book that was used in pretty much every other country in the world to try to implement Milton Friedman's Chicago Economic School of neoliberalism. We got to talk about the School of the Americas and how we train soldiers to be fucking killers. To be fucking killers. And to train their, forces, military forces to repress their people in the worst torture possible. It's so much stuff. I can't get on this camera and stay here. I would have to stay here for 3 or 4 hours reciting every historical example of all the shit that the United States has done. And it all stems down from its original sin, its refusal to accept that we have this disease in this country. The reason that Germany and some of these other countries have been able to make some leeway, and it's not perfect, but some leeway, a pretty successful leeway, in solving some of their own discrimination and not allowing a return of Nazism in their countries, is because after World War II, they were forced to own up and face up to the stink in their own society. Eisenhower made Nazis, and the normal German people parade them through the concentration camps and see what they had done. And I think they should do the same shit to every white American in this country. And every black and Asian also that votes the Republican Party and supports, like willing house slaves of this crap, force them, parade them through a facility, through Alligator Alcatraz, see if they laugh about it. Force them to see what they've done to all the children that have been taken away from Latino parents who crossed the border and they were separated from the parents and they were adopted here in the foster care system, and those parents never saw their kids again. Force them to have to see all that. Force them to see the crap that Stephen Miller is doing to this country. Force them to see the crap that Hoffman or Oldman, I don't know, the guy who's up in with a Homeland Security guy. You guys know who I'm talking about. That arrogant prick, that arrogant racist prick who just wants to couch everything in legalisms because he's empowered to do that right now. He's empowered to do that right now because the people on top of him are racist. Because the people behind Project 2025 are racist and bastards, just human bastards, just Nazi bastards. We gotta stop being nice. Just let's use the words that are applicable to this shit. Fucking human bastards. I don't even want to say human. They're inhuman bastards. So this is not something that just happened today. These kids, these young Republicans, they're the children of racist bastards in the home. Mary Trump said that it was totally normal for her to hear the word, I'm sorry to say, but we're having a real conversation, right? She heard the word nigger all the time in her house. It was commonplace in the dining room table. Trump didn't come out of a vacuum. His father was a piece of shit. And Trump's father's grandfather, the grandfather was a piece of shit too. He was a pimp. He was a guy who was trying to be a draft dodger from the German, enlistment. Just crap people. He comes over to this world to be basically a bottom feeder, a pimp, a piece of shit. That's what Trump's heritage is. And his father was just a piece of shit too. And abused Donald Trump. Donald Trump himself is a victim and a victimizer. And he is emblematic of everything that's wrong in this country in terms of so many, not one, 33 to 40%, I would say, about this country's white families had family upbringings just like Trump, just filled with a whole bunch of racism. And now that these things come out in the open, everybody wants to say, we apologize. I read the Politico article. All the statements are, I've learned from this. I'm going to grow out of this. I should be better. I'm ashamed of what I've said. But, I'm totally not sure if that's been distorted. Even in the apology, it's always the throwing the smoke bomb to try to neutralize the situation. This is historic. This has always been the reality of the United States. Nobody should be proud of the United States. It's one of the reasons why I don't pledge allegiance to this damn nation, because this nation fails us. I believe very strongly, like the song of ay Dios mío, this singer, My Petition. I forget. Jill Scott. Listen to the song Jill Scott. Go ahead and go on YouTube after this video and listen to Jill Scott's My Petition. Beautiful song. And the reason that in My Petition they can't pledge allegiance, the blacks in the song, is because this country has failed them. And it's continually failed them. And it's failed Latinos. It's failed Asians. It's failed gays. It's failed Native Americans. Jesus Christ, we stole the whole goddamn nation away from them and condemned them to reservations and drunkenness. Just destroy these people. This has been part and parcel of what the United States has done to every damn group of people that they ever met. The Hawaiians killed them, basically took over their country and made a state out of their country. Now that they're basically living in tents in their own land. Puerto Ricans are being gentrified out of their land with Act 60 or Act 62. I don't even know the number. The gentrification tax break law that's there. We have people like this Brock Pierce, piece of crap in Puerto Rico, who are there, these parasites, who are basically the children of the previous races. It's never ended. If anything, what Trump did was teach everybody, or at least in his side, those 35 or 40% who are racist and Islamophobes and sexists and xenophobes, those pieces of crap human beings that all inhabit the Republican Party. You can find them in the Democratic Party, but not a lot. You can make the case that there's at least a 3-4% of people in the Democratic Party that are crap, but the whole party looks down upon it. And if they're found out, they're kicked out immediately. It does not stand for the Democratic Party. It certainly does not stand for the Green Party. It doesn't stand for a lot of the Democratic Socialists of America. It doesn't stand for a whole bunch of organizations in the United States. But when we talk about the Republican Party, it's the fucking cesspool of shit. And I'm just so tired. As a Puerto Rican in this country, I'm so tired. I hope I speak for other Latinos and other black people in this country. We are damn tired of this. And I don't want this to be swept under the rug. And I don't want people to say it was just some bad apples. And it was, no, this was just a revelation of what happens behind every single a club and private conversation between Republicans. This is what happens every single day. This is what animates all these white people. This is what animated all those white people at Charlottesville, where they're, you will not replace us. They are absolutely xenophobic. They are absolutely white supremacists. They are religiously supremacists. They believe that their version of religion is the one that got imposed over everybody else. And they fear a replacement. What they fear is a replacement of a majority of this country that are not racist white bastards like them. That's the big fear. That by 2050, blacks, Latino, Asians, and all other people are going to be a majority. They're no longer going to be able to involve themselves or indulge in this crap. So I've always said that Trump, for me, is the last great gasp of that white supremacist crap that is the disease of this country. And if you're a white person and you never participate in this, great for you. Thank you very much. Become an aya. Help us out here. Step aside that this is not with you. But if you're part of that white racist majority in this, or that substantial minority of 30 to 40%, shame on you. And goddamn it, we're tired with you. We're tired of this thing. When I was a student, this shit was a reality. And now in 2025, it's still a reality. And these are the guys that become the school board people, because let me tell you, the Republican Party is very well organized. They have everything well funded. The Heritage Foundation and all these other organizations, they're very well funded. They're very well organized. All these little kids who are right now talking about gas chambers and Nazism and all that stuff, and they are the ones that later become the school board chairman, the city hall chairman, the local mayors. They run for state senator, state representative. Then they become the assistant, just like Stephen Miller did. You become an assistant or an advisor to a high position person, and then in the next administration, you're the administrator, because the guy who's pulling the strings behind Trump is Stephen Miller. But he wasn't always there. And Stephen Miller, when he was a student, they got videos of him in a bus talking all this anti-Latino shit and anti-immigrant shit. Just like these kids. He was also a 20-year-old piece of shit, and now he's a 40-something-year-old piece of shit. And this is the pipeline. Let's call it the piece of shit pipeline. The Republican piece of shit pipeline. You're born to a Republican family. You're raised in a piece of shit family and a piece of shit culture. A piece of shit, gun-owning, violent culture, toxic, anti-black, anti-woman, anti-LGBT, anti-Native American, anti-everybody. Then you go to college. You're part of a young Republican club, the piece of shit young Republican club. And then out of that, you go on and you go to some public office or some kind of a small position of influence. You become an assistant to, I don't know, one of these senators or representatives in Congress. You learn how to more effectively wield your piece of shit. You're geared and you're mentored to be a bigger piece of shit, and how to use power to be more of a piece of shit. And then when it's your turn, you run for office and you become the piece of shit, because that's what it is. That's what it is. And it doesn't stop. And when people talk online, what's it going to take to change? It requires a profound national reckoning. We need Truth and Reconciliation Committee stat. We need people admitting it. We need people in the Republican Party to say, we were members of that organization for years and we were wrong. We participated in wrong things, and we apologize to the nation. We apologize to Native Americans. We apologize to Latinos. We apologize to blacks. We are, and on top of our apologies, we're taking accountabilities by making sure and deciding in front of you that we will not run for office. We will become regular citizens. We will support efforts by other people to try to change the culture of this nation. But we recognize that though we can help in our in our cultural change, because we have no trust from anybody, we are not going to be the people to lead it. We're going to let the people on the opposite aisle of the country, the people who have always supported a multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic political party who believes in the rule of law and the Constitution of this country, you guys take the lead, because you guys obviously know how to do this shit better than we do. Because all we've known has been the piece of shit pipeline all our life. And when we went into power, we engaged and enforced that same piece of shit legacy. That's all it is. I don't know any other way to say it. And now we're living straight proto-fascism. Proto-fascism leading to fascism stage 1. I think the proto-fascist state was, the first Trump administration. We are fascism stage 1. Including reuniting all the military and essentially seeing who they're going to purge, and already purging military leaders. I mean, just like Saddam Hussein and North Korea and other totalitarian, authoritarian regimes have done. And once they've, consolidated that purging, then they're going to basically increase the abuse. They've already armed beyond any other military or paramilitary or law enforcement wing of the country. The one and only one that has the most money and the most power and the most weapons is the one that has no accountability. The Gestapo, the ICE people. And they're abusers. They're masked abusers. So within this context, we can't see the Republican text, the young Republicans text, that political release as something temporary or just happens once in a while. This is part and parcel of the foundational original sin, that whole streak, that whole line, all the way from 1776 to today, of piece of shit rearing by 35 to 40% of the white families of this country. I condemn them. And I hope everybody else does too. I'm so tired of this shit. I'm tired of the fascism. I'm tired of the casual freshness and brash disrespect of people in this country. I'm tired of the laughter and the smiles in people's faces, the mocking of them. I'm tired of this crap. I can't wait for this regime to fall. And when it falls, we need a national reckoning. We are not there yet. We are not even close to there yet. This country is sickening to me.